In early 2024, a single handshake inside Old Trafford sent shockwaves through the football world. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, billionaire industrialist, founder of iOS, and lifelong Manchester United supporter, had just secured a 27.7% stake in one of the most storied clubs in history. Price tag? £1.3 billion. For most billionaires, buying a minority stake in a club wouldn't even be headline news. But this was different. Ratcliffe wasn't just buying into Manchester United, he was buying into the power to control its future. Because hidden in the fine print of the deal was a clause that gave him full control of football operations, transfers, recruitment, the academy, and even the manager's fate. The Glazers still owned most of the club. But Ratcliffe? He now held the keys to the team's soul. And that soul was in trouble. A decade of mismanagement had left Manchester United far from its glory days. Stadium infrastructure was crumbling, sponsorships were plateauing, and worst of all, the team had fallen behind in the global Superclub arms race. Manchester City had the oil money. Real Madrid had the Champions League dominance. Even Newcastle now had billionaire backing. So why would a man worth $20 billion, who already owns Nice in France and Lausanne in Switzerland, decide to gamble on one of the most expensive and politically toxic clubs in world football? Because Ratcliffe has a plan. A plan to turn Manchester United into the most profitable and dominant superclub on earth, without throwing away money like City or Chelsea. His blueprint? A blend of corporate ruthlessness, scientific precision, and old-school football romanticism. And if it works, it won't just change Manchester United. It could rewrite the rules of how elite football clubs are run. But first, to understand his vision, you have to understand the man. Jim Ratcliffe's story doesn't begin in a boardroom. It begins in a small council house in Failsworth, Greater Manchester, just a few miles from Old Trafford. His father was a joiner. His mother, an office worker. Money was tight. Vacations were rare. But what young Jim had in abundance was curiosity and football. As a boy, he would cycle past the stadium on match days, watching the sea of red shirts flood into the ground. Back then, Manchester United wasn't a brand. It was a community heartbeat. But Ratcliffe didn't take the typical route to success. There were no silver spoons, no elite prep schools. He studied chemical engineering at the University of Birmingham, then earned an MBA from London Business School, paying his own way and working on the side. His early career was spent in the chemical industry, working for oil giants like Esso and BP. It was here he learned two lessons that would shape his empire. 1. Assets are only as valuable as the efficiency of the people running them. 2. When an asset is undervalued, you buy it and you fix it. In 1998, with nothing but borrowed cash and iron nerve, Ratcliffe founded iOS. His model was brutally simple. By struggling chemical plants from corporate giants, cut costs, improve output, and turn them into profit machines. Within 2 decades, he transformed Ineos into a $65 billion empire, making himself the richest man in Britain. But for all his corporate conquests, there was still one itch he couldn't scratch: football. Not just any club. His club. He dipped his toes into football ownership with Swiss side Lausanne Sport in 2017. Then in 2019, he bought French Ligue 1 club OGC Nice. Both were experiments, test labs to understand modern football's economics. But Manchester United? That was personal. When the Glazers put part of the club up for sale in 2022, Ratcliffe made his move. His first bid was rejected. Sheikh Jassim of Qatar, with an all-cash offer, seemed the favorite. But when the dust settled in late 2023, it was Ratcliffe, not the Sheikh, who emerged with the winning hand. This wasn't a full takeover. He was buying less than a third of the club. But it was the right third. The one with the decision-making power over football. And unlike the Glazers, Ratcliffe wasn't in it for dividends. He was in it for dominance. Sir Jim Ratcliffe didn't waste time. The ink on the deal was barely dry when he began making calls that would rattle the football department. His first move? People. Out went some of the Glazer-era executives who had overseen a decade of decline. In came proven operators. Omar Barada, poached from Manchester City as CEO, the man credited with building City's commercial juggernaut. Dan Ashworth, Newcastle's football mastermind, brought in to lead sporting operations. Jason Wilcox, Southampton's technical director, and a key figure in Manchester City's academy success. For Ratcliffe, this was textbook Ineos strategy: hire elite talent, then give them the tools to win. But talent alone wouldn't be enough. The club's infrastructure was lagging behind rivals. Old Trafford, once a cathedral of football, was showing its age. Training facilities were outdated compared to City's billion-pound Etihad campus. So Ratcliffe began plotting the most ambitious stadium and infrastructure project in United's history, a potential £2 billion redevelopment. Whether it meant renovating Old Trafford or building an entirely new super stadium, the goal was clear. Manchester United would have a home worthy of a global powerhouse. Commercially, he saw opportunity where others saw stagnation. United's sponsorship portfolio was vast, but much of it was legacy deals negotiated in the post-Ferguson slump. Ratcliffe wanted premium partnerships, fewer sponsors, bigger fees. And then there was recruitment. No more marquee signings for marketing purposes. No more £80 million panic buys in the final week of the window. Instead, data-led scouting, rigorous fitness analysis, and players who fit a long-term tactical plan. Think Liverpool's precision in the Klopp era, but with United's financial muscle. The approach mirrored Ineos's sports philosophy across its other ventures. In cycling, their Ineos Grenadiers team used marginal gain science to dominate the Tour de France. In sailing, they poured resources into performance analytics. Now, that same corporate efficiency was being applied to football. Behind the scenes, Ratcliffe was also working to repair the club's culture. Former players were invited back into the fold. The academy, once the pride of United, was being revitalized to produce the next class of '92. The message was simple: Manchester United would stop living off its past and start building its future. Every bold plan in football eventually meets its reckoning, the moment where vision collides with reality. For Sir Jim Ratcliffe, that moment came faster than anyone expected. Just months into his tenure, Manchester United faced a critical summer transfer window. The squad was bloated with underperforming high earners. Some were fan favorites. Others were costly mistakes. But all were symptoms of years of scattergun recruitment. The temptation? Do what many billionaire owners before him had done. Open the checkbook and buy instant success. Chelsea had tried it. Paris Saint-Germain had perfected it. Even Manchester City's rise had been fueled by an early spending spree. But Ratcliffe knew the trap. Big spending without a clear strategy doesn't build superclubs. It builds debt and chaos. So when United were linked to a £120 million move for a superstar forward, the football world waited for Ratcliffe to flex his new wealth. Instead, he vetoed it. The player didn't fit the tactical profile. The wage demands were too high. The commercial upside didn't justify the risk. Behind closed doors, there were tense conversations. Some fans accused him of lacking ambition. The media questioned whether he was serious about competing with City and Madrid. Even within the club, there were whispers. Was this billionaire here to cut costs instead of chase glory? And then came the test on the pitch. Early in the season, United faced Manchester City at the Etihad. The gulf in class was obvious. City's slick, modern machine dismantled United's patched-up squad. The scoreline was ugly. Social media lit up with same old United memes. This was Ratcliffe's crucible. Would he abandon his long-term plan for short-term appeasement? Or double down on his methodical rebuild? He chose the latter. And in doing so, he signaled to the football world that Manchester United's transformation wouldn't be a quick sugar rush. It would be a slow burn, but one designed to last decades. The weeks that followed saw quiet but decisive moves. Offloading high-wage flops. Investing in the academy pipeline. Securing a groundbreaking data partnership with a leading sports analytics firm. Negotiating with a global stadium architecture company for the biggest rebuild in Premier League history. The message was clear. Manchester United might lose some battles in the short term, but the war for football supremacy had just begun. By late 2025, the outlines of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Manchester United vision were beginning to take shape. It wasn't just about football results. It was about building an ecosystem, one that could generate success on the pitch and financial dominance off it. The first major shift was in global revenue strategy. Under Ratcliffe, United stopped chasing every sponsorship lead and started targeting Tier 1 partners. Luxury brands, tech giants, and global entertainment companies were courted with bespoke packages. Each deal wasn't just about slapping a logo on a shirt, it was about integrating the brand into United's global fan experience. Within 18 months, commercial income saw its biggest jump since the Ferguson era. The second transformation came through data and science. Ineos's sports labs, which had fueled dominance in cycling and sailing, were now plugged directly into Carrington. Player conditioning was tracked with military precision. Injury prevention programs cut lost game time dramatically. Recruitment decisions were driven by predictive analytics, forecasting not just performance but also resale value. But perhaps the boldest move was the stadium project. Ratcliffe greenlit a master plan for a £2 billion state-of-the-art, new Old Trafford, a football and entertainment complex designed to rival SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles and the Santiago Bernabeu's new redevelopment. It wouldn't just host matches. It would be a year-round revenue engine with concerts, esports, hospitality, and fan zones generating millions beyond match days. On the pitch, the rebuild philosophy was paying off. The average age of the squad dropped. Homegrown academy talents were breaking into the first team alongside smart, under-the-radar signings from Europe and South America. It wasn't yet the finished product, but United were playing with a clear identity, pressing with intensity, attacking with purpose, defending with structure. The cultural shift was just as profound. Former legends now held ambassadorial roles, mentoring young players. The women's team received unprecedented investment, boosting both performance and brand reach. Fans, long disillusioned, began to feel a connection again. Ratcliffe's transformation wasn't about quick wins. It was about making Manchester United immune to the boom and bust cycles that had plagued other billionaire-backed clubs. In boardrooms from London to New York, rival owners were taking notes. For the first time in years, Manchester United wasn't just chasing superclubs. It was becoming one.